The Leeward Islands should be on watch for Tropical Storm Lee, which might very well be a very intense, a very powerful hurricane at the time of its closest approach. There is still a possibility of some impacts being felt, though they might not be very major. And so in this video, we will be delving straight into all the updates regarding the new storm. And we also want to look at our other systems across the Atlantic, as well as what is happening across the Caribbean in terms of rainfall activity. And so before I go into details, please do subscribe if you haven't yet done so, and tap the bell so that you never miss an important update. Alright guys, and so firstly though, we want to quickly glance on the Eastern Pacific. Let's take a look at what is going on over there. So we've got one active tropical storm, which is Hova, and it is to become a major hurricane. So the National Hurricane Center forecasts that it is going to rapidly strengthen, and as of the latest update this evening, the maximum sustained winds are around 65 miles per hour, and it is moving to the west-northwest at 9 miles per hour, and so it should gradually start making its way to the northwest. Fortunately, not going to be a problem for anyone as it loiters out there. And so hopping back over into the Atlantic basin, looking at the satellite here, you can see that we've got our systems out there. That off the coast of Africa is 96L. We've got the remnants of old systems and a trough that extends into the Caribbean, and that is helping to enhance rainfall activity, thunderstorms across some spots. And there are also a couple of tropical waves moving through and some other spots of thunderstorms. And so as we zoom into the region here, we can see these thunderstorms across sections of the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos Islands, also for Cuba, sections of the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica, even near the Cayman Islands as well. And then as we head over into Central America, especially going to Honduras and Nicaragua, there we see lots of thunderstorms popping up this evening, and also for other areas, Guatemala, El Salvador, Mexico. So some spots within these areas are likely experiencing some inclement weather conditions this afternoon. And of course, a lot of heavy rainfall in a short amount of time can trigger flash flooding across some areas. But then over into the Eastern Caribbean, we're not seeing where there's a whole lot happening for Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, heading over into most of the Lesser Antilles, a bit of thunderstorm activity near Guadeloupe. And as we head down to the Windward Islands, there is a bit of activity there as well. Some thunderstorms were near Trinidad earlier today, but we see that that is dissipating right now. ABC Islands, pretty dry and hot just as forecast this morning, and then some thunderstorms popping up across sections of Colombia, Venezuela, and northern Guyana this evening. All right, so now we want to go ahead and talk about what is going on out there. So we've got newly formed Tropical Storm Lee this evening, and as we take a look at the cyclone, there we have it churning, not the most organized, but this will become a very powerful hurricane as we head to the end of this week. And then further to the east of it, off the coast of Africa, there we have our next disturbance, Invest 96L, given a high 70% chance to develop through the next 7 days. So maybe by the end of this week, this will become a depression, maybe even a named storm. Most models are expecting that this will develop into a tropical storm, and so the next name to be used for this season is Margot, and that would leave 8 names left on the list for naming tropical cyclones this year. But should the names run out, there is a supplementary list. Here it is. So the first name is Adria, so we'll see what happens, but I have pretty good confidence that this current list is going to be exhausted for this hurricane season, because we have the rest of September to go through, and models are even showing another system trying to develop by the latter part of next week headed to the Caribbean. So we'll have to wait and see for that, but I'll keep you guys posted as per usual. But these sea surface temperatures are off the charts, and they're not going to cool off very, very quickly just as the hurricane season ends. So even beyond November 30th, we could still see some activity take place across the basin. So I really think that our current list is going to be exhausted, but I could be wrong. Let's see what's going to be happening. And now let's go ahead and take a look at some more info concerning Lee. Here we have the latest cone forecast, and the system has maximum sustained winds of 45 miles per hour and is moving to the west-northwest at 16 miles per hour based on what the National Hurricane Center has here. And so this is going to continue with this general motion over the course of the next several days and should become a major hurricane maybe by Friday. I wouldn't be surprised if it manages to become a major hurricane before that. So this here is going to be in a very conducive environment to allow for that rapid intensification to take place. And then as we head into Saturday, that could be the time of its closest approach. And as I've pointed out in previous updates, this is to track the center and not the size of the storm. So even though the center might be well offshore, it could still be close enough to induce some impacts. And so I want you guys to keep that in mind. In terms of the probability of tropical storm force winds, we see that there's somewhat of a low to medium chance of northeastern islands, such as the island of Anegada in the British Virgin Islands, Anguilla, St. Martin, St. Bartholomew, and even Barbuda experiencing tropical storm force winds. So those are the islands most likely to experience tropical storm force winds, but at the same time, that chance is not very high as of right now, at least. So as I said, even though it could be offshore, it could still induce some impacts, potentially periods of heavy rainfall, maybe even some gusty winds, and of course those rough seas out there as well. So that is to be expected from this, especially as a major Cat 4 hurricane, which is what the National Hurricane Center is expecting. But then as it relates to the impacts, this is what the National Hurricane Center has to say. So the key message reads, Lee is forecast to become a major hurricane by this weekend and could bring impacts to the Leeward Islands by that time. While it is too soon to determine the location and magnitude of these possible impacts, interests in this area should monitor the progress of Lee and further updates to the forecast. So there is some uncertainty down the line. Impacts could be minor, or they could be a little bit more significant, but not anything that is extremely crazy. So we have to wait and see, guys. And then in the long term, we also want to watch for possible impacts in Bermuda. So I will be keeping you guys posted on it as well. But again, it is expected to become a Cat 4 hurricane. And then looking at the general model intensity guidance here, we can see that most models are indeed expecting this to become a major hurricane. A couple of them wanted to take this up to a Cat 5, which would not be impossible once the environment remains conducive. Now, this should make a curve out to sea, and there is a chance that, I would say a low chance right now, of impacts in North America, be it parts of the US or Atlantic Canada. But only time will tell. There can still be many shifts in the track over the next couple of days, and that is why I'm keeping you guys posted on this. But everything is kind of consistent right now in terms of how it is moving and what models are projecting. So I will continue to keep you guys posted on that. So that is pretty much what I wanted to share with you guys in this update. We have Tropical Storm Lee, which has now developed. It should become a very powerful Cat 4 hurricane, potentially a Cat 5, and we've also got 96L out there, likely to become our next cyclone, which might remain out at sea but could bring impacts to the Cabo Verde Islands as it develops. So persons there should be monitoring this for any major impacts, particularly in terms of the heavy rainfall, because that's usually the main concern, because the flooding is induced, those landslides, mudslides, they happen as well. So I will keep you guys posted on this. Stay tuned for my next update coming tomorrow morning, and I trust and hope that you found this video to be quite informative. But if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll respond once I get the chance to do so. And as always, remember to be weatherwise.